I'm standing in the kitchen, and the outside door opens, and Uncle Lyle walks in.
We're like, thought you were in jail.
Like, what?
It's like, this smells better than prison food.
We're the
I remember that so good.
And everyone is like, what the hell?
Yeah.
But Uncle Nephi had stopped talking to us, remember, before that.
The Friday before, I had talked to Uncle Nephi on the phone, and he's, it was the same thing. Like, your father really trusts you. Make sure you're staying clean and pure, I think
and
you're
after
doing
the
good.
visit, he wouldn't answer.
He would not answer.
Nothing. And so it was weird, and we're like, okay, we're trying to stay positive. What's going on? Uncle Lyle walks through the door. And we didn't know what to think of that. I was like, okay, well, he doesn't read anyone a message. He says, I need to talk to this person and this person. Who left at the same time as we did?
Mother and I don't remember.
I don't remember. But he says he needs to talk to these certain people. One of them was Mom. And so, they go to the other end of the house, and Mom comes back.
Tears.
Crying and like, I need to talk to you guys. It was you, me, Sienna that were there. So we go up to, or where did we go? To some other room.
We were just right there by the dining room.
Okay.
Yeah.
And she tells us that we're getting sent away.
And I am like, shit. There's no way this is right. I went and called Uncle Nephi like 10 times.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, there is no way.
I was so shocked, but I immediately just resigned myself to like, this is happening, and I'm going to have to bear everyone watching it happen. A bunch of my sisters were there, older sisters that I hadn't really had to do with for a while. And it was torture.
It was torture, especially after we started having to figure out how to leave. We didn't just have a ride.
Yeah, it was like, what are we supposed to do? But we have to leave before the rest of the family can get their message. Uncle Nephi will not talk to anyone until us wicked people are gone.
Yes.
It was like, I don't know. So we go and we get packed up. Everyone was really nice. Like, people made sure that like they would gave me stuff.
Everybody had been through a lot at this point.
But they're also like, we don't want to be next.
I know.
But we pack up and we get all our stuff hauled down to the dining room, and Mother has to call her father and arrange a ride, one of her brothers, to come pick us up. And do you know how embarrassing that was?
Oh, I almost died.
Not only that, for all the family in here to watch that we have to go be with these people. And it's not like those people were bad people. It was just the dynamic.
The message was something like, go work and earn your own living in the world. And you've been too much self-enlivening. Yeah. Masturbation, essentially. And I'm like, Dad,
I didn't know what he was meaning.
I was
just like, okay.
I was like, no.
Oh, and he said for 7 months. Do you remember that?
If you're back in 7 months, right?
Something about 7 months.
Then you're essentially gonna be okay.
Right, and the 7 month thing was my only saving grace as we were leaving, because I was like, there's a tiny bit of hope that we'll be good enough to come back. Like, our message didn't say getting sent away forever.
And so, who is Mother's brother that came and got us? No, not Dan. They brought a trailer in their 15-passenger van. What is his name? Truman.
True? Was it him?
Yes. He brought his 15. So they brought one of their trailers. Mother's having to call these guys and be like, look, we're getting sent away and we need somewhere to go. We didn't get given any money either.
Nope, nothing, nada. It was just go live with your father's family, until you're good enough.
They bring a trailer.
A tiny trailer. Yes. Remember that? Tiny trailer. We all, at this point, we're carrying everything we own around with us everywhere. From hiding, houses to hiding to, place to place.
We're used to moving in 25-foot gooseneck nice trailers.
So they bring a tiny trailer And so we put everything that we immediately need in, and we leave. Mom, like, oh my gosh, she hounded them to go back and get our stuff.
Yeah, I was kind of losing my mind a little bit because I had done a lot of, work, right? But I had hooked the trailer up to the van that we were going in. And when we were pulling out, the trailer popped off the hitch, and I was like, God, I am losing my mind. And I felt even stupider than I already did.
But it's just that same thing where your whole world is getting turned upside down, and it's like you're just along for the ride. You have no say in what's happening. It's just like a bomb was thrown in your life, and you're just, one of the pieces walking around.
Yeah.
And waiting to settle in the next place.
Yeah.
But with all the embarrassment and all the, people seeing you, this happened to you, you're the next bad people. We can't talk to you anymore.
Yeah, and so we drove up to Cedar.
Yep, to Cedar and to where Grandpa Merrill was.
For me, just the uncomfort, like after this point, there was worse times probably emotionally, but as far as uncomfortable.
Because up to this time we were provided for. We sewed, we cleaned, and we were sent away, but we were still provided for.
But also we
had nothing to do with the world.
I had never even hardly done much with crickers.
Yeah.
So I could be, down at R17 with all the men there. Okay, I was used to that. But as far as people that worked, that was like terrifying.
Yeah, it was so different.
Everybody treated us weird.
Going from there to having to work out here, probably the biggest change really that we ever had. We went to hiding. Things changed through the years, but this was drastic. It was like, you go out and earn your own money. We didn't know anything about money.
Yeah, and we didn't know anything about anything either.
Anything in the world, nothing.
And we go to Cedar for a few days, and I just feel awkward. I hate it with every part of my entire being hated that.
Yeah, but it was crazy, and maybe people looked at us and thought we thought bad of them, but they didn't treat us very good.
They didn't treat us very good at all.
They were not kind.
No.
They were, I don't know. We were not welcome. We weren't. We were not welcome. No one was nice to us. It was like, when are you leaving?
Yeah, it was.
And we're in the midst of our lives just getting completely smashed to smithereens.
That's probably, it was a very unwelcoming environment in Cedar. Mm-hmm. Like, nobody wanted to help. Nobody wanted to talk to us. Nobody wanted to anything.
Right. It was, coming from people where we were coming from, and then to that was really weird.
It was, like I said, the most uncomfortable time I had.
Yeah.
And when we left Cedar, I was just glad.
Yeah, we leave Cedar because Grandpa Merrill decides that it would be best if we go up to where Ern was working in Denver and help with it, whatever was going on there.
Yeah. And he gives us like $400.
Yeah, Grandpa Merrill gives us $400 and lets us use his truck for a few days. Mm-hmm. So he drives us up to Colorado, and then we have $400, and we're living in Joe's RV.
Yep.
And we're like, now what?
Yeah. And it was nice of them to help us that much, It was really nice of them to help us that much, or I don't know what we would have done.
I would say the people in Colorado were a tiny bit more welcoming than, I wouldn't say welcoming, but they weren't quite as offish as the people in Cedar, but they still were. Yeah,
it was, I felt way more comfortable in Colorado because I had spent so much time there.
But we're living in a totally different
We are, but I kind of know the vibe. Like, I have the same feeling there, and I know the mountains. I know Denver, kind of. Not, I don't know the city, but I know where we are kind of better.
Yeah, it's like, this is more familiar.
And I just hated that I was with who we were with, you know.
Yeah. Do you remember when we live in the RV for like not very long, and then we moved to an apartment?
Yes.
Do you remember when we moved to that apartment, how big of a fit we threw? Because Dad's words he had been saying was like, those who live in what is it?
Well, pretty much the city, you know.
No, it's something like house to house or something like that.
Yeah, in the scriptures it says that quite well. One to those who live house to house.
He kept bringing it up around this time before we left.
Yeah.
So when we live, we're like, that must mean apartments, and we're like, hell no, we're not living in an apartment.
We had this mindset that if you lived in an apartment, you must just
wicked.
be an evil, immoral, say every bad word. You must be that, you know?
And so Mom kind of threw a fit to her dad and was like, we will not live house to house.
Oh.
And they're like, this is what we have.
They're like, you better be grateful.
Yeah. And you know, we moved in.
It was nice. It was a really nice apartment, really. It was.
I'm not sure I could afford it on my own right now.
I couldn't. We couldn't have afforded it.
No. We ended up, so they were nice. They gave us a job, a place to live that we didn't pay for. So we were sent away, but we had help, you know. Yeah.
It took about 2 weeks or 3 weeks to get everybody on board, I think.
And we started cooking for the Phase Concrete crew.
I think
Mom
another reason why Grandfather Merrill and his brothers they were moving pretty slow with it, and they didn't know what to do, is because some of Dad's wives that were his daughters had already come.
And then left, probably.
Yeah, and then kind of messed with them and left. You know, so we
come along and
they
everyone's
weren't very
just
welcoming.
Like, don't, you know.
Which makes sense for them.
It does.
At the end of the day, it's not their responsibility to take care of us, exactly. So I'm not complaining at them.
Dad just dumps us on them.
Yeah. It's like Dad raised us to be this perfect New Jerusalem, whatever, and then he's like, get. But I always say that's also the best thing that ever happened.
It is. That was the start of, you know, kicking us out completely. Because I always say, I never would have left had I not been kicked out.
Oh, me too. Never.
Anyway, we
live in that apartment for a while, and I would say a month in gets I got a depressed feeling that I had a hard time shaking.
Yeah, and it was like, we have 7 months. Whatever we do in these 7 months, we just have to be perfect. We just have to do everything right. But at the same time, do you remember the first few days in those apartments, how lonely it was? And it was like, we're in this apartment and we have the world around us, but we don't know what to do. And it was the 4th of July right after that. We went out and just walked across a golf course. Remember that?
Yeah.
No one was around, and we just were like, what do you do? We don't know what to do.
We didn't know what to do besides read our Book of Mormon and sew. And I knew how to do woodwork, but I had no shop.
And the world just doesn't work that way.
No. And
you started working out on the concrete crew on your 18th birthday.
That's right. On my 18th birthday, that's right.
Yep, it was your 18th birthday. I bet that was awkward.
I was like, thanks, Dad.
Crazy.
Wait until I was 18.
I remember Grandpa Merrill saying, okay, we need to get Jaden, whatever, his driver's license. And then he's like, and her, does she have one? To me. And I'm like, me? A driver's license? Why would I get that? I don't want that. Yes, I want that. No, I don't want that. I shouldn't want that.
Yeah.
But I was 20.
Yeah.
And Mom was like, are you sure we should get her one? And he was like, yeah, if anyone's going to drive, they need to have a driver's license. And I was like, I'm going to drive.
Oh.
I'm like, I'm old enough to drive.
Yeah. It's crazy. We get settled in Denver.
We end up moving.
I would say after 3 months, then I felt a lot more comfortable on the concrete crew. And I felt a lot more comfortable talking to the crickers and everybody. Like, I felt a little bit more like, okay, this is something I can deal with. I know how to navigate this world. And then you guys also probably felt a lot more comfortable about cooking. You had been cooking for all the guys.
Well, yeah, so we started helping cook, but it was like there was someone else already there cooking. And we kind of did it separate. It was like, okay, you guys do this, you guys do that, they'll do that. Until it was like, you know what, why don't we just do it together? And that's when we started just going to their house and just doing it all together. And then we'd take it and deliver it to the crews.
And then after a while, we rented a bigger house, and we moved
all
together.
Yeah, in Denver.
Yeah, and so we lived there for how long were we there? A year? 8 months? 7 months?
It was more than 7 because I remember after it got 7 months, I was like, it's been 7 months. Like, something has to happen or we're going to, like, be doomed.
By 6 months in, I was thinking about starting my own business.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, this is not working for me.
Oh, and do you remember when we left, Dad told us we couldn't write him letters?
That's right.
We had to write Uncle Lyle a letter every week.
He said, don't write letters to my servant anymore.
It was a privilege that was taken away from us.
Yeah.
It was so weird writing to Uncle Lyle. I did not know what to write.
Yeah, and looking back on it and realizing how just demoralized I let myself get and how I let other people just demoralize me like that, there was coming a time.
Yeah, for sure. And it's crazy because he probably knew that, but then he would reel us back in. I bet it was more like, okay, so we left in June and meetings started in February and we went in March.
March 2017.
March 2017.
We left in June 2016.
In March 2017, we get a message that says to go to meetings in Short Creek. Oh my gosh.
And the people, so Tina, who lived with us in the house, she went a week early.
We're in this house, we're, living with Tina, and then all of a sudden she's going to this, whatever. It was like secret. She couldn't say anything. And we are just like, what the hell?
I'm like,
we have been being so good.
Yeah, I'm like, when I talk to my dad,
I'm going to ask him, why?
Yeah.
No.
Well, it was more like she had literally, like she was using the internet quite a bit.
To us, she had done worse things than us. It was like...
say you were holding a strict standard. She had crossed the boundary.
That we held.
100 times more than we had.
Right, that's what it felt like to us. I'm not saying she did bad. Of course, it wasn't bad.
It wasn't bad, but in FLDS view...
It is.
If you were an honest judge, then you would say, like, she had done all these things. That's all I'm saying. Like, of course, they're not bad. I mean, hell, I think... as far as I'm concerned, she should have been doing more.
Right. Anyways, we go to meetings and Dad sends us a message that says...
Well, we go for 3 weeks.
Well, we went the first time and then Dad said to move to Cedar. So we move, up and like, okay, phase, bye.
He tells us to live with Joe Newell.
Yeah, so we're supposed to live with our uncle and still have to work and make money somehow. But we're like, bye, phase, drop you. And we move to Cedar. And we're living in Cedar for 3 weeks. We go to 3 meetings. Man.
Were those meetings the kind of weird ones? I can't remember if they were when you were there.
No, they were just, new people were coming every time, and the first thing they would do is, if you've ever taken off your underwear, then get up and walk out.
Yeah.
And then it would just be a message, but it was just like the normal messages around the time.
Uh-huh.
Oh, not normal, but it was like...
Okay, but like a few weeks later after you had left, it was like Putin of Russia sent these nukes over here. And
yeah, it wasn't like that when we were there.
Yeah, okay.
It was more just...
But after 3 weeks...
After 3 weeks, we get a call from the person who was running the meetings. Who is it? Russell?
Russell Johnson.
Russell Johnson. We get a call from him, and he tells Mom. He reads the message to Mom. I think it was Russell, or was it... Well, I can't remember. He reads it to Mom and tells me and Mom that Mom and me have to go far away, and we can't go to meetings anymore, and repent of, I don't know what. I didn't hear the message. I didn't hear the message. And that was like one of the things that was so devastating for me. I was 20 and yet I couldn't hear my own message.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Joe Newell, I don't know if he wants me to say his name, but Joe had rented us a house in Cedar. And we were all supposed to move in, and he was supposed to kind of
he was like supposed to live with us, and it was like, oh, we've been told what to do. This is awesome. And then it blew up in our faces before it ever happened.
So Joe Newell and I were up in Pocatello doing a job when you got the message. And then he got a message to take...
the girls...
Yeah, so our two younger sisters, take them up to Idaho
to live with another uncle. And me and Mom were just supposed to go far away. He didn't say where. He just said go far away.
And then I was supposed to stay with Joe.
And we were supposed to not talk to anyone.
Yeah.
Anyone that we knew, any of the family, any of the priests of people.
Yeah, and me and the girls kept going to meetings, but you guys were sent far away. So tell us what happened.
So we didn't know where to go. And we were like, well, there's people up in Idaho, like around the Rexburg area that, we knew of some people that had gone there.
Some FLDS.
FLDS, some of our family that had gone to live with their family that had left.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So we went up to Idaho around Rexburg area. Not Rexburg, it was the one by that. Rigby. We went to Rigby and we just drove around in our car. We met with some people that were there and we're like, what do we do? And they were nice, but they weren't very helpful. So we went and tried applying for some jobs and we tried getting a house and nothing worked. We were only there for like 2 days. And Joe was like, Jack is do we need to not say their names?
Say them.
Okay. He's like, Jack is living in Oklahoma. You could go down there. And while we're just really debating where we should go, we're driving to another city in Idaho. And we're like, you know what? We're going to Oklahoma. We're on a part of the freeway where there's not an exit for a while, and we're like, we are going to Oklahoma, and we bump across the median, turn around, and head to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
But we were so out of I just remember being so out of my mind and just not knowing what decision to make. It was just like, what do we do next? The only saving grace, we weren't given any money. The only saving grace was we had just got a tax return. We worked from the end of June to March, and we had just got a tax return.
Yeah, and we had put mother's children on it.
Yeah,
to get a tax return.
We don't want to get in trouble, do we?
Oh, we're not getting in trouble. If somebody gets us in trouble over that, then they can go and dig a ditch. No, yeah. So but it wasn't huge.
It wasn't just huge, but it was enough money.
$2,000
that we were able to get down to Oklahoma, and then we did meet with mother's brother that was there, but he didn't have anything to do. He couldn't really help us, I guess. So we stayed in hotels until, what he did was let us use his address, or an address he had. And we went to a staffing agency and we got a job. So we used his address so we could get a job. And then we were just staying in hotels, doing our laundry at laundromats, and looking for houses. And we had no rental history, no credit history, no church history. Cause
Mother's credit history. Well, she had got a car, so she had a little bit.
That's true. She had just got a car, but she had credit history like way back in the day.
Yeah.
But it didn't really count. It had been so long.
But she had got a car when we moved to Denver. We managed to.
So she had just started, but it was really new. But we had no rental history. And when we would go talk to people, they would be like, well, is there a church that can sponsor you? You know, and just talk to, it helps if they can, vouch for you that you're good people or whatever. And we're like, no. We're kicked out from our church. Yeah. We can't talk to anybody in our church. Anyway, we ended up finding a duplex that we just offered them a bigger down payment. And they gave us a house, so that was nice. And me and Mom, we worked at the same job for about 9 months. Figured it all out.
Another depressing time.
It was the first time we really had to just figure things out on our own. Well, our jobs were very low wages.
Yeah.
But we did pretty good. I'm pretty proud of us.
Good.
What we were able to do.
I am too. And yeah, I'm not going to talk too much about what happened on my end of things because it would take forever.
Yeah, Mom's brothers that were there, like for the 4th of July, they brought over some fireworks and set off some fireworks, and they would talk to us every once in a while, but we were kind of alone out there.
Yeah, and it's one of the things people don't understand is you're striving so hard to go back, and when other people come around that don't have those same goals, you kind of push them away.
Yeah, not only that, you have the world at your fingertips, but you don't know it. Like, we had people at our job, this lady knew who we were from our last names, Jeffs and Jessup. She would come talk to us and just try and argue with us about why we were, our religion was bad and how awful it was. And, and that turned us, oh my gosh, it's like immediate, you're bad. It will make us more firm, and we hated her. We were like, you're just, one of those people that we're told will,
you're just
talk against our religion. Yeah. We didn't get on the internet. We had a lady there at work. She never questioned us. She would look anything up for us that we wanted, print anything we wanted. She found my cat.
Oh, you got a cat.
I got a cat. We were so lonely, and I was like, you know what? I want a dog.
Yeah.
I wanted a dog, but I went to her and asked her if she would find me a cat. And she found me a cat off Craigslist that was free. And went and picked it up. Named it Whisper. That thing lived with us for almost the whole time. We got it a few months after we got there, but it was my first pet. Whisper. Loved that thing. I think one of the most detrimental things, or not detrimental, but we literally would pick up in the blink of an eye and just ruin the life we made.
100%.
And that's what we did there. And sometimes I think back on it now and I'm just like, we were so stupid. Because we had got a job, we started making friends, we had a place to live, someone gave us a place to live, and we just dropped it all.
We definitely weren't going to learn our lesson at that time because we did it a few more times.
Yep. Because it was a weekend. So, we worked through the week, it was a weekend, we get a message. We hadn't heard from anyone for 9 months. I'm pretty sure it was 9 months. I remember thinking, does Dad just remember us every 9 months? We get this message that says, to move together, all of mom and all her kids, and to move to North Dakota. And we're like, okay.
Yep.
So that night
You were elated, weren't you?
Oh, it was like, yes, finally, a message, and it's like, just the next thing. So that night we left, and we went to Denver, to Colorado Springs, to meet you and the girls, pick you guys up. And we drove through a blizzard. Mm-hmm. The roads were all closed, so we drove on back roads. So stupid. Like, why don't we just wait till the storm blew over?
Because you were
doing what we were told.
Yes. And
we came back to Oklahoma and packed up our stuff. we just went straight. It was Sunday night. We just went straight to Colorado Springs. And the next day we didn't go into work. And they were calling us like, what's going on? And we frickin' told them that our grandfather was dying and in the hospital. And that we had to run, we were out of state. We're like, we lied our heads off.
Uh-huh.
And then we got back to Oklahoma, packed our stuff, drove over to work and said, bye.
I know. I remember that. By this time, I had managed to get an F-150.
Yeah.
And I had I had borrowed a friend's trailer. And a lot of stuff had happened in my life through these 9 months. But then I came to Denver. I picked up Mon's stuff. We got Mon, headed over to Oklahoma. You guys took care of whatever business you had.
In Oklahoma. And our house rent wasn't up, so we had to just figure out what to do with that. And then we went on up to North Dakota.
Now, this is the one time we got money.
Yep.
$12,000.
He gave us $12,000 to move up to North Dakota.
Yes. And it took about 3 to move there.
The money barely made us through it.
Yeah.
I mean, we did pretty well.
We rented a U-Haul, right?
We rented a U-Haul and a big yellow trucks.
Yeah.
And just got all our stuff in there, moved up to North Dakota in the dead of winter. It was the end of February.
That was it? It was
end of January.
End of January 2017.
18. 17 was when we went to meetings.
Oh, it was January 2018. Right.
So we get there, and then we have to start all over. We stay in a hotel, and then we have to find a job and a house to live. And it's hard to find a house to live in when you don't have a job.
That was a weird vibe, too. But I have to say, like, all of that, there was a lot of emotional turmoil through all that, but there was never the degree of uncomfort that I felt when we first left.
Yeah, and especially because now we're by ourselves.
Yeah,
and no one has to watch us fumble.
Yes, it felt good to be up in North Dakota where nobody knew we were.
Like, we were just like away. No one was there to see if we failed, to see what we were doing.
Yeah, we were all together. All mother's children were together. It definitely was a time of, well, it was kind of a disappointment a little bit for me because I had been going to the meetings all this time.
Well, you and Mon had been,
in 23.
One of the good people, and then she comes and we're like dirt to her. So, this dynamic of we short cricket people, and then we come out here and we're like, it's not like we think they're bad. They're just people that we don't want to associate with because we want to be able to go back as soon as possible.
Yes.
And now we're that to Mon.
Yeah. And she's heard horrible
things about us.
Yeah.
And I didn't know the extent of that. But so we do our best. But I think for the next year, we live together, Mom and her kids, in relative peace.
Yeah. We were just all trying to come back together and work things out. Of course, we were so faithful. It was amazing.
Yeah, it would just amaze you the control we had over how obedient we were.
Yeah.
Despite having,
like, we were having good words every morning.
Me and Mom had got our phones on our own Verizon plan, so we got phones from the short crick people. I don't remember what you call them. Their phone plan, how they could block the internet.
Yeah, they can give you an iPhone, but it doesn't have the app store. It has the basic necessary apps. And then other than that, you can't connect to the internet.
Yeah. So we had sent our phones there and got on their phone plan. And then I can't remember why. Oh, it was too expensive with our income that we had.
It was $70 a month back then on the Cricker plan.
Yeah, it was. I just remember that going from them to, we went to AT&T. We went from them to our own phone plan. We saved like quite a bit of money just every month. And that's why we changed, just because it was so expensive. So we go to AT&T, and the lady at AT&T takes our phones, and she's like, "What did someone do to your phone?"
Yeah.
She's like, "It's like someone is blocking you from getting on the internet." And we're like, "Yeah, but that was what we wanted. That's what we paid for." It's pretty much what we told her. And she had to call them, and they had to give her some code to, take off it. And then we got on our own phone plan with internet. We still didn't use the internet.
Right.
No matter what, we did not use the internet.
That was when you were in
Tulsa.
And then we moved, and when we were in Fargo, I had a phone that was from Phase, from the same
thing, only Phase
and I had
paid
an
for
iPad too that was from there, and I took both of them. Well, my phone broke actually, and so I couldn't get a new one, but I also took my iPad over to the Verizon store, and they did that very same thing, doing all this stuff to try to get it fixed. And then it was just 100% free, and that's probably the biggest.
You know what's funny? The lady that did our phones was a Mormon in Tulsa.
Really?
She was a Mormon, and she was like, "If you guys ever need anything, just come. We have a relief society, and we have like a storehouse. We can help you get food. We can help you get clothes. If you ever need anything." And we're like, bye.
Yeah. In hindsight, there was a lot of people we could have got to help us, but not with the mindset.
Not with the mindset we had. It was like they would lead us astray.
You have to get to a certain point before you'll let people help you. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll take money from anybody, right? But not do what they suggest or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Fargo, I felt like went pretty good for the first while.
Yeah.
Well, we were actually in Moorhead.
That was one of the, let's see, what do you call it? I don't know. We were told to move to Fargo. We get there, and I don't know why we looked everywhere, but for some reason the one we found was in Moorhead, like right across the border, like into Minnesota.
2 miles maybe.
And like 6 months in, we're like, what if
we're supposed to be in Fargo?
We're supposed to be in Fargo and not Moorhead. He said Fargo. We disobeyed.
I know, and
we're like, but it's all we had. We had to find a house to live in.
Yeah, so we were pretty anxious to move over to Fargo, which we did.
I don't know. It was just Mom and her kids for a good amount of time. And then Dad sent a couple people, others of our family, to live with us. But, it's crazy. They were all our aunts and cousins.
Yeah.
Our moms who are aunts and cousins.
Yeah, so mother's sister and her children.
Mother's sister and her children, another one of mother's sisters, and a cousin.
Came to live with us.
One of their sister's kids came to live with us, and that
Dad had sent them to live with us.
Yeah, Dad sent them to live with us, and so we got a bigger house, and we lived there for a year and a half. What, I don't know. It was 2018, so we were there with Mom in 2018, 2019.
No, it was pretty much the beginning of 2019 that we moved into the bigger house, and then we lived there until. It's funny because it sounds like it felt like a longer time than looking back on it now, because let's just say there became a lot of problems in that house.
A lot of problems in the house, a lot of tension between everyone. Everyone was working. We were in an environment where we started to get more freedom. and then everyone's judging each other, and tension just everywhere.
And by this time, I was so deep in the internet.
Before those people came to live with us, when it was just mom and her kids, we started watching Trump and all the rallies and all the things he was doing with president.
Politics is like the one thing that's kind of okay.
Became, except for at that time it was okay, and then it would be like, wicked, we better stop.
Right. But you don't want to go watch something that's fun.
Right.
That would be wicked.
Right.
Politics, okay, let's see what's going on.
Yeah. And so at that time I maybe watched Trump a few times and stuff, but I wasn't into the internet that I wasn't.
I sat in the basement of that Moorhead house after I got my iPad switched over and watched videos for like 2 solid weeks. Just I could not even sleep or anything.
Oh, that's funny. I didn't dare too many of the girls around.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, is I was kind of isolated a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so
then we do a stupid thing and decide to buy a house. Should we talk about that or not?
100%. Well, so there's getting to be a lot of problems.
A lot of problems in the house.
And at some point, one of our sisters is living in Idaho, and we decide,
we hear that this bunch of bad things are going on.
Sexual harassment, essentially.
With her, and she's 14, something like that.
And we decide she should move with us. But mother's sister disagrees.
Yeah. And so in the middle of the night, we head out and we go get her.
Yes.
And it just makes everything worse.
It makes the biggest problem.
But in this time, we had got dogs. And then we decided there was so many problems in the house, not enough space, that we decided we're going to buy a house.
But also the dogs were everything was an issue. Oh,
everything.
And the other house had dogs, and they were better or whatever in the religious hierarchy or whatever, or felt like they were.
The family hierarchy.
Yeah, especially towards the end, it felt more that way.
Yeah.
And they were like judging us constantly. It was kind of getting to be I could see it coming from like 300 miles away.
Yeah, our neighbors were realtors, and for some reason, I don't know how it happened, we just decided to buy a house. And it was like, well, we've been here for a while, we need more space, let's just buy a house.
Yeah, and we were in the city, and it was just hard.
Don't ever just go buy a house.
Right.
Anyway, I was one of the only ones that had a job for 2 years. So I'm the one they used. The name
Your
they
credit.
used. My credit, my name.
And then our cousin, who was Dad's wife, one of Dad's young wives, clear back, but she had good
Signed
credit.
On. And a good enough job history. And then no one had any right giving us a house, giving us a loan. That I did not know how it went through. I wish so bad someone would have been like, no, you guys just not, no.
Nope.
Instead, they just wanted their money. But
yeah, and then one
of our older brothers signed on.
The family kind of all got together and called him and was like, hey,
we're trying to buy this house. Will you please sign on it? So we did. Anyway.
Ammon. It's Ammon. People know who Ammon is. So yeah.
It's Ammon. Yep. So we get this house. We have a big argument over signing the papers, because when we finally come down to signing the papers, it's like, why are we doing this? And
I had cut my hand from the time we started getting the house to when they had got it all finished was 6 months. Remember? And I had cut my hand.
And you didn't have a job anymore.
Right. And I was saying no. All I remember about that is I said no. And I don't know why I like to remind people of that. But we were around this conference table, and everybody was saying, let's do it. And there was a few of us in there.
There was a few people. It was like, no, I was just on either. I was like, I don't know. Yes, no. But I should have been more
I should have held my ground.
because it was my name, but everybody was just using me.
We had had to write an $8,000 down payment, and we were all pretty broke, but I had the...
Again, why did we do that? We were so broke. I don't know. It was so stupid.
Everybody was just kind of waiting for me to say I would write the payment. And
you should have just said no.
I'd said no for a solid half an hour in there,
oh, dear.
And then I was kind of like, after everybody was talking, I was just listening, and I said, okay.
So ultimately, we buy this house. The plan is to gut it, remodel it, and move in.
Yes.
But everyone helped because we all had jobs. We all...
I wouldn't say it was entirely unreasonable that we could have done it.
Yeah, I think we could have done it, but yeah.
Bad situation.
So we get the house, now we have to do it. We're locked in. We start tearing everything out. We make the first payment. We
rip the kitchen out. We rip everything out of the bedrooms, rip the carpet out, rip all the trim out, we got that place.
Yep. And one day we're out there, and I think you were doing the master bedroom, bathroom, ripping it apart, and all of a sudden, one of the other mothers come in and is like, I need to take our sisters, and all the other people home, and me and you and Mom are like, what's going on? And those girls are like, yeah, we have to go. And so we're like, okay. They head out, and we're just standing there like, what's going on? And so we come home, and they are all packing up and leaving. All just like that. Won't say a word to us, won't look at us, nothing. Oh my God.
Oh.
Now what? How do we even talk about this?
I think for me and you, this was kind of
it's the catalyst, honestly.
This is the moment that we had to rethink everything, kind of.
It was.
I understood through this experience that by the end of this experience, I knew that I was the only one that I could ever depend on.
Yeah.
Because, okay, for one, the moving out was bad.
Well, yeah, but I guess Dad had sent a message, and they were now, the dynamics change everywhere, but it's still the same. Now they're these good people, and we're the bad ones.
And they aren't have anything to do with us. To
not have anything to do with us, to not talk to us, to not see us. And something bad was said about us. I don't know what it was. I don't care to know what it was. I just know that something bad was said about us.
Okay, but there also was a lot on top of this. Okay.
Oh, I definitely.
Let me explain that. Mother and her sister were anything but kind of on good terms.
Yeah.
And this definitely
living in the same house.
This was definitely kind of a revenge thing where she was going, and she was one of the good ones, and she wasn't letting Mother's girls talk to Mother. Okay.
His dad said we were bad, so she was stand in front of Mother and wouldn't let them talk to her, and was like, no. He said no. And
yes.
It was more than that. There was a lot of things that went on where it was just...
I felt like it was a degree of revenge.
Yeah.
That wasn't anything to do with religion, just this
jealousy
is bad feelings.
Bad feelings.
Sort of a thing. Yeah. And in that way, I was quiet, and I was just thinking, but I definitely could see it. And even if she didn't totally see it, that's what she was doing. 100% what she was doing.
I know, I watched it. Some very unnecessary things were said.
Mother is the most forgiving person. I don't think she would forgive Mother for that, but Mother would forgive her.
Oh, yeah. And Mother would be like, why are you even talking about that?
Yeah, Mother would wonder why we're talking about this.
Because we hold grudges.
And I get it. Like, maybe everybody's kind of in a bad situation, but that was unnecessary.
Yeah. It was a bad time. It was so bad because this had happened so many times. You know, life blows up, you know, do something else. But this time, we were again on the bad end of the stick, and everyone else, you know, is like a bad case of FOMO, but worse.
Yeah, and so essentially we're left with 2 house payments, though.
Right. So they all leave. They take whatever they want in the house. I mean, of course, they probably thought twice, but they took a lot of stuff from the house and leave us with our rental payment and our house payment the property we purchased.
My hand is cut too, so I'm getting better, but I can't quite work yet.
So you call Rich A and ask him to help us pay the payments because we have a $2,500 rent payment and an $1,800 mortgage payment that was supposed to be paid by everyone, but now they're gone and they're not helping.
Yeah, so everyone was gonna hurry help us fix up this house. We were gonna be done with the rental and all move into the new house. And
but then they up and leave us with everything.
Yeah, so it went from 13 people, and we were kind of all pitching in to 3 of us. And we tried our best to never just call people and ask for money. Yeah.
But this time we were so desperate. Jaden calls Rich A and is like, we need help with the payment. And he says he'll send it over. Well,
I give him my bank account.
You give him your bank account. He says,
tomorrow it'll be in there.
And the next day it's not there. And so you try calling him and he won't answer. Is that right?
Yes. And he won't answer.
No money. Yeah. Nothing. And no money ever came.
Yeah. No money.
Come to find out that one of the people who was part of the group who left us alone had called him and told him to not help us. And
told him that Warren Jeffs said a bunch of bad things about us and that we were evil and whatnot. And so he wouldn't talk to us anymore. And he wasn't the only one I had tried. You know, I had tried getting some help from some other people that had already left. I tried getting some help from several people. But that day is the day I was like, okay, financially, it's me. And no I can else. Never rely on a friend ever.
Well, yeah, and being in a situation where you're dropped like that, it's like I don't want to be in this situation ever again.
Yeah, but this wasn't the first time either. I mean...
And it wasn't our fault. I mean, we were literally doing what we were told. We were told to move with these people, so we got that big of a house. Everyone's name was on it. Everyone, signed the paper and helped pay rent.
Yes, like the mother that was on it, our cousin, dad's wife, she also just left.
Yeah. and then so they moved out of the rental, but then a couple days later, Mom's sister calls and says, "We need that house. When can you guys, move out to Durban?" And Durban was torn apart. Sorry, Durban. The house we purchased.
Yeah, that's what we called it, is Durban.
It was torn apart. Not livable. No kitchen, no bedrooms.
Mice.
Bad. And we're like, okay.
I'm like, okay.
So we pull a bunch of credit cards.
I refocus. I have some credit cards.
You have credit cards. I went and pulled credit cards. And we bought all the stuff and fixed up 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms.
I added it up. We spent $28,000 on our credit cards. Okay, because I had slowly worked up to getting $20,000 in cards, and then you applied for a Home Depot card, and they gave
Costco, you one. We filled them. We maxed them out, getting all the stuff and fixing up 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, because we were gonna have everyone's income to help with this and credit.
Right, but this was after, and we were just trying to get rid of one house and focus on the other one and live there.
Well, and they call up after they expect us to pay the rent. They call up and we need that house. Yeah. I remember being mad, angry inside.
I don't remember that part as good, But I just remember that I spent, you know, even though my hand was hurt, I went and fixed up 2 bathrooms. I totally gutted and redid 2 bathrooms and totally redid 2 rooms, and they were done really nice.
Yeah, we helped. We painted. I remember painting, and one of the girls had kept texting me. You know, it was like I had this one little sliver of hope that maybe someone would keep talking to me. And that day, then I tried calling her and texting her, and she had blocked me. And I went and was painting, and I was like, I'm just gonna go find a guy, any guy in this world, and I'm gonna like move out, and I'm gonna forever be a stranger. Like no one's ever gonna know what happened to me. Like I was so done. It was just like I can't handle the pressure of this anymore. Everything that comes along with that.
Yeah, and by this time I had used the internet so much.
That's when I started.
That I knew a lot more than I had before. I understood the world a lot better. And this experience just made me want to...
Not me. I mean, I didn't understand the world. I wish I would have understood what it meant to buy a house. What it would do to my credit if something bad happened. What it meant to go pull a bunch of credit cards and get in debt. You know, we literally lived from day to day. Like the next day we were going to be called home and everything would be, you know, all better. That's how we lived. So in my mind, it was just not even a big deal until it was.
Oh, and we got that tractor because we couldn't, for one, it was a huge lawn. Right?
Well, it was winter and covered in snow, and we needed a snowblower.
And there's a pretty big section of driveway that you're not going to hand snowblow.
Yeah.
Right.
So we go and we pull another loan for a tractor.
Yeah, and we kind of... I kind of understood credit by this point, so we kind of finessed the system to hurry and get all this stuff before we couldn't, you know.
Yeah, well, we're out there and we're, you know, just going to live at Durban, and then like a couple weeks later.
Well, we were there till March, right?
Okay, yeah.
And so we had fixed up the 2 rooms and they were nice, but then we were dead out of money.
Right.
And it was winter, and that's not a good situation in North Dakota because the winters are heavy.
They're brutal.
And so I was trying to keep the house heated and it cost like $3,000 a winter because it was so uninsulated. And the fuel tank, it took fuel, and yeah, every time it was like $400, and it was like every 3 weeks, you know.
Yeah.
And it was pretty bad.
Well, we get a message. We get a phone call, and it's the girls with a message from Dad, and he tells us, leave that house you seem to buy and move into the city and rent and work.
Until I come. That's what he said.
And so we pick up and we go rent a house in Fargo, and we completely drop Durban, like boom, because we just seemed to buy it. I called Alan
and said, look, we can't make that payment. And he said, okay, I'll see if I can make the next one. And I said, if you can make the next one, maybe we can make the next one. And he couldn't make the next one, so I said, okay, well, we're not making the next one either. So, but that was the one time that I genuinely considered not doing it.
Not leaving Durban.
I don't know what you and Mother were thinking exactly. I think we were kind of relieved that we could move to a nicer place.
I was in a state of mind that was like, just whatever I can do to be good enough to be with the good people, to be with my sisters. Maybe if I hadn't been in that frame of mind, I would have thought that. Mm-hmm. But to me, the pressure, the devastation of what had just happened was just too much. And the emotional state I was in was not enough to think about what was going to happen. Yeah. You know, it was just, we got a message, this is good. So we're going to do it because that is the only thing we can do to be able to be good enough to be with those people.
Yeah. I felt devastated and I still felt faithful, but after that happened, when we had finished those 2 rooms and moved out there, right? I binge watched every single thing on YouTube about the FLDS. Everything.
I didn't until we moved back into Fargo. Okay, so, and he also told us to get rid of the dogs.
That's right.
And those dogs were my everything.
Mm-hmm.
So they were like my last thing that I didn't, hadn't had to get rid of. So as I got rid of the dogs, that's what I did. I went and watched every escaping polygamy video. I watched everything you could find. But that was after we moved back into Fargo.
Yeah, because I used the internet before that, but it was at that point that I was like, I don't care. I'm learning everything I can learn.
And I got on Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat, but all on, just...
I had all anonymous accounts.
Anonymous. Yeah. Oh, silly.
You and I and Mother leave Durban. We rent a house. It's a duplex. One side of the duplex. It's fairly nice, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of a big relief from Durban. Like, nice kitchen, all the amenities we need. We dropped Durban. And we lived there for 2 years?
A year.
A year.
Yeah, so
1 year.
2020, we lived there through the pandemic. Everything that was going on. Me and Mom cleaned houses, and you were doing your construction.
Yeah.
Decks.
And I was using
patios.
Durban still.
You were using Durban's land for your stuff. Yeah. Yeah, we lived at that house through 2020. We were just on our own. Just didn't hear much from any of the family. We knew they were living there in Fargo, or some of them for part of the time. But we didn't try finding them. We didn't try.
Yeah.
We just lived in our own world.
Yeah. And there I started watching a lot more. It was regular for me to watch football.
Yeah. You watched, but I got into YouTube, but I kind of, would only do it on my own because Mom would be like, you really need to not be on the internet.
Yeah, she would tell me that, but but I didn't live by her. I mean, I lived in the same house, right? But
yeah, I got very, very into politics because it was like the one thing that was okay. But from politics, I got into like Facebook and looking up people who had left on Instagram and,
Oh yeah, you're just looking
anything
through everybody.
you can find. I also started messaging people. Talked to a lot of people who had left through that year on Instagram or Facebook or Snapchat.
And then we moved to another house in Fargo that so our family had, but they were moving away from.
So we rented it and we lived there for a year.
And it had more land, it was bigger, and it was not that much more either. So we lived
there, and that's the house I pretty much left when we were living there.
So that's also where Shim's funeral happened.
Yeah, well, the girls left. Our sisters left from North Dakota, wherever they were. It was a sudden thing. We hadn't heard from anyone in 2 years. All of a sudden they call us up and are like, have you heard from your sister?
Yeah, Hedeman calls me, and the biggest red flag I had right up front was he called and told me that they wanted to sell the Expedition, but the Ford dealership would only give like $30,000 for it. And he wondered if we would buy it for $50,000. And I looked it up and I was like, it's definitely worth $50,000. I think he wondered if we would do $40,000 or something.
It was quite low for how much.
And I said,
of a car it was.
Yeah, and I was like, hey, I'm at least gonna flip this thing because I was like, there's no way the Ford dealers, that is a big lie.
Yeah.
And so to me, that was a huge red flag.
Well, and then he calls you in the middle of the night at 1 a.m. or something and says, have you heard from your sister? Jask, who is our full biological sister. Whatever you call him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what in the
And
hell?
he's like, she was supposed to be at this house, but she's not there. And we are, oh my gosh, Jaden calls me. I haven't talked to anyone. I don't know anything. And so it makes it sound like she's missing.
Yeah, it does.
And mom's freaking out, we're freaking out, and we hadn't heard anything by 4 a.m. So mom called the police over there where she was supposed to be in Williston, North Dakota.
Yes.
And, makes a missing persons report or saying that her daughter's missing. What are we supposed to do?
Yeah.
We don't know anything. We haven't talked to these guys in 2 years. And they call us up and tell us that she's missing.
I mean, the story makes no sense to me. I am like, this is so fishy. And so we start digging.
And then Joss texts and says she's fine. And then we come to find out all this bunch of stuff was going on and the girls were leaving. She had left.
Yeah.
And we didn't know that.
Yeah, she just left the FLDS. And a bunch of those girls in North Dakota had.
And it was devastating. Like, we haven't heard from them in 2 years. We're trying to be so good enough to go back. And then the first thing we hear is, oh, they're leaving. They're not, they're turning apostate.
Yeah, and I'm kind of, so Sienna's one that kind of told us what had been kind of going on. And then I called Heatherman and told him.
So we kind of made all of them have to leave quicker than they had planned.
Yeah. So I told Heatherman and they're like, oh, now Heatherman knows we have to leave right now.
But we didn't know we were messing things up. It was just like...
I was just trying to figure out what was going on with Jaska.
And no one had talked to us for that amount of time that now it was like... I don't know.
Yeah,
messy.
So I told Heatherman and Heatherman basically figured everything out and then found out that they were, kind of plotting to leave and take a bunch of stuff. So.
And I could not get it. I could not get, like, why would you leave? I just couldn't get it. But then a couple of the girls who hadn't left came and visited us, and they were talking about their life, and not much about it, because it was like, don't talk about it. But in that moment, I was like, if I was told to go back and move with them, would I do it? Because they don't have a job. They aren't making money. They have to ask for the things they need. I have my own money. I have my own freedom. And I truly asked myself, would I go back? And I didn't think I would. I was like, I don't want to be an apostate, but I'm not going to go back.
Yeah, the whole girl thing is when I stopped paying my tithing.
I did too.
Because they took.
But do you remember that's the time that we stopped doing good words? We stopped doing any kind of prayer or anything. Yeah. You and me and Mom.
Yeah. And we were kind of like, well, we'll just do it on our own if you want to do it. Okay, during this time, I had bought a pack of t-shirts off Amazon, even though I had never worn them.
I had bought a t-shirt, but I did not know you were doing that.
Well,
I just wanted to know how it felt to wear it.
I was scared to even wear a plaid shirt in front of you and Mother.
Yeah.
I feel like you and I were both leaving.
I think I did not know what you were doing, and you didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah, I had been. I mean, by that point, I had been on a couple dates.
It wasn't that brave.
Yeah, the whole girl thing was just so messed up. The girls leaving North Dakota. It was very confusing.
I'm sorry.
But ultimately, it opened my eyes to realize that everything is as messed up as I thought it was.
Yeah, and things were not as they seemed.
Yeah.
It was not. Everything was not all rainbows and roses over there.
So, that definitely pushed, I think, probably both of us to leave a little bit sooner.
It did. Everything was very confusing. The things that were coming from them, the things that they were saying Dad said, I was like, that doesn't make any sense.
They also still believed him,
yeah.
but also weren't going to do what he said to do.
Yeah.
I was talking to him, and I would say, so what do you think about this? Like us, for example. And they say, Dad said that you're bad and whatnot. But then I would say, well, are you going to do what he says then and go back? And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, so he can say
So you
something.
still believe him that I'm bad, but the rest
But you're
doesn't
not going to
matter?
do what he says?
I know.
It was a very eye-opening time because they were beyond just brainwashed.
Yeah, it was crazy.
They were so far from reality that
It was so crazy. They had left, and yet you were texting them about saying things like questioning some of the things Dad had said, and they freaking went into Helaman and was like,
that's
"Jaden
right.
is saying this stuff."
That's right.
And they had left. They were the ones that had left.
That's right. I had put. Did I send somebody a text or something?
You sent Jaska a text.
Oh, I sent Jaska a text doubting Warren Jeffs.
Something that they said he had said. And they sent that to Helaman.
They sent
Look
it to Helaman.
Jaden is doubting the prophet. I was like...
And they had left.
And you guys are the ones that are wearing bad clothes.
and literally have left and won't do what Warren Jeff says and all this stuff. But they were reporting me...
to Helaman.
because they wouldn't doubt Warren Jeffs at that point. But they were like, we're out. We're apart.
They were like, yeah, it makes no sense.
I went off at that time about logic. Like,
yeah, it's because we hadn't been in that listening to things, and we really were more down to earth and like weren't. I don't know.
Oh, they were so very
wherever that had taken them. I started talking to the girls that had left, and more started talking to like Vicky and those people who had left. And more just talking to him. I went and visited the girls in South Dakota, and that's the first time that I changed my clothes. I wore some jeans while I was visiting them, and then they gave them to me when I brought them back, but didn't wear them. And right around the time that I visited them is when Shem died. So I was like ready to leave. Like, okay, I think I'm just gonna change my clothes. I don't care anymore. And then Shem died. And we went over to his funeral, and the whole funeral was just so bizarre. But also pulled me back in so fast. I went and I deleted everybody's contacts, blocked people, and wouldn't talk to anyone that had left.
I think I have that poster still of the one they had on the casket saying, "My dear children," and it's a picture of Dad saying, "My dear children, please be faithful to the end," or something like that.
Uh-huh.
I have that, and I think if I do, I'll put it up on screen so that everybody kind of knows. But that was everywhere.
Yeah, and Uncle Leroy got up and talked, and his talk was crazy. I don't know.
He was like, if you don't believe in the prophet by now, what is your problem? You're going to hell.
His talk was literally worshiping Dad.
It was.
It was very over the top worshiping Dad. But just everything was. I was so worried everyone there could tell that I was an apostate, or that I was thinking about being one.
Yeah.
But the talk of death, like the fear of death, and the talk of what happens after or whatnot, especially if you're an apostate or not faithful, scared the hell out of me, and I was like, nope, I'm not leaving. Mm-hmm. I'm not gonna leave.
Me too.
I haven't done anything bad enough that I can stay.
Yeah, and we hadn't, so that pushed you back in.
That was in September. Yeah, that was in September, and it pushed me right back in, and I went back to working and just only talking to good people.
And shortly after is kind of when everybody found out that Helaman had, a couple wives and kids.
That is at Shem's funerals when I found out. Mm-hmm.
And everybody was kind of like, okay, what is going on here?
Oh my goodness.
And at first I was kind of like considering it, but then I just found out that, they didn't even have a wedding. They just had an imaginary
Warren Jeff lifted him up and
Yeah.
married him type of
That's
thing.
what
And I
I,
was like, nah.
When they told me that he had kids, it was very mixed feelings in me. I was like, okay, maybe there's hope. At the same time, I was like, of course, that's never gonna happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, right. Anyway,
I was just kind of thinking, with everything that's gone on, I don't know. I was confused.
so I officially left in December around Dad's birthday.
December 2021.
So about 6 months after the girls left. I unblocked their numbers and started talking to him again and started wearing jeans. And was like, okay, I'm done. But it was more of a like, I'm living in North Dakota where no one can see me. I'm not going to tell anybody I've left. I'm just going to do me.
Mm-hmm. And I hadn't left really.
Mm-mm.
Well, in November of 21, I moved down to Wyoming.
Yeah, and before when you were there, I one day wore jeans and then you were out mowing the lawn. And so I waited till you were around the house and ran into the house so fast so I could change back into my dress so you wouldn't see me wearing jeans.
I move away after Shem's funeral. That's pretty much, I was thinking about leaving. And then I
didn't know you were thinking about leaving at Shem's funeral. I knew me and Sweetie were.
Pretty much when he died. Right before he had died, then I had kind of gone off the rails a little bit and started doing a lot more things. And I was working on a deck one day and Levi called me and he's like, hey, Shem died. And I was like, oh shit. I think I was planning on doing something crazy that weekend. I don't know if it was a date or just going to an event,
That's funny because I didn't leave because of I thought I didn't know what you were doing, but I thought you and Mom would be trying to get me to not leave, and be like it was a lot of peer pressure. I really cared what you and Mom thought.
Yeah.
But that was all kind of because that's all we had around us.
Yeah, I went to a baseball game.
You did.
And I went in this plaid shirt, and I was so worried when I got back of what you and Mother were gonna think.
Oh, but I didn't even notice.
I was, but you came driving up right when I was walking into the house. And I think I started telling you, I just wore this shirt because I needed to. I can't remember what I said.
Oh, I kind of remember, and I was like, so what?
I know. It was so weird.
Funny.
And then I moved to Wyoming, and what did you do?
Around December is when I left. Stopped wearing dresses, was just wearing jeans, and was working, and we were cleaning houses and stuff. That was our business. But, yeah, pretty much that. Sienna came to live with us. Me and Mom went and got her from Williston, North Dakota, to come live with us, and then me and her left about the same time. We were like, okay, we're done. And then Grandfather Merrill died in March, and we went to his funeral. But I was I wanted to go to his funeral, and I didn't want anybody to know I had left. So I took a dress. Someone actually sold me a dress, so I went to Vicky's house, changed at Vicky's house into my dress, and then went back to Cedar.
Wow.
And went through the funeral with, just be there like I was a faithful FLDS person. But I'll not never forget, but Helaman's talk at his funeral was, do you remember? Were you there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was there.
That was the first time that I saw it in a different way. I watched him be like rebuking all the men for their being immoral and, not waiting for the prophet. And his talk was almost dark. To me. I was looking at it through a whole different lens. And I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And just him getting up there and saying those things, I was like, who are you?
Uh-huh.
And also looking around the room at all the people who, I mean, I knew I had left. I knew a bunch of them had left, and yet we're all here in our dresses acting like we're all faithful, and I'm like,
There was a
okay.
lot of people at that funeral that were straight up
Apostate.
out. And they threw on an FLDS dress, did up their hair,
Just like me.
and came on in.
Just like me.
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah, I remember Heathen's talk.
everyone was like rapt to their attention, listening to Helaman, and I was like ready to roll my eyes. I was like, this is not okay.
Yeah. What I was thinking in the moment is, bro, I know your own struggles. I saw him with my own two eyes.
Yeah.
I saw him just about apostatize and even say that he was going to just go find himself a girlfriend. I said, if he had been in my shoes and gone through everything that I went through, he was about to leave clear back before. If he had walked the path I've walked, he would have probably been out way sooner than even I was. When I heard that talk, I was like, bro, if you had been through, and I get like he had been sent away after and a bunch of stuff had happened up that 23. And I'm not saying that he hadn't been through a lot, because he had.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, if he had been sent away for 4 years like a lot of other men, I was kind of like, dude, you can say that, but even though things might be worse, even though they might be bad, when you're close and you have some hope, it's different.
Yeah.
Okay? And you don't know what you're really saying. You haven't walked the walk. All you know is how to kind of bully people, not bully, but essentially tell people what Warren Jeff says to do, because...
And there's power in that. They get a certain, thrill from the power that comes with that.
But it was also really eye-opening for me, because I was thinking, if I had been in his shoes all this time, I really don't know that I would have done anything different.
Well, yeah, true. I mean, you know how when they read Dad's word and everyone's supposed to like feel, the power in them. I was like, there's nothing here.
Yeah, if you're not in the mindset that it's right, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
So.
And then I left the funeral and was just kind of in Cedar seeing everyone. And people knew, I guess some of them knew that I was leaving or whatnot. And they tried like rearranging my life.
Some of the mothers.
Yeah, like getting me that I should move down to Cedar and be like where more people are so I don't dare leave and stuff like that. And I was like, you know what? I've already left.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gone. I'm not going back.
Yeah, Mother called me several times about you through those days. And I
think I really made her have some gray hairs.
Yeah, but I was kind of like, well, we're just going to have to let her do her thing, because I pretty much had already left her, so.
Yeah, she got a lot of hope when I put my dress back on for Grandpa Merrill's funeral.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, it was like a symbol. Oh, she's going to not do it anymore. And on our way back up to North Dakota, I got back in my jeans, and Mom was saying things like, well, does that mean you're not going to leave? And I was like, Mom, I am never going back. That's when I told her. I was like, I know you don't like it. I know, it makes you sad, but I am never going back. And she was like, well, a dress isn't bad. And I was like, yeah, a dress isn't bad, but when it defines you. And she's like, it doesn't define us. And I'm like, really? So I'm wearing jeans and it's a bad thing? People are judging me by what I'm wearing.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was like, I'm never putting a dress on again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I realized I needed to stop yanking her back and forth, because she would get hope and like, oh, she's not going to leave. But I also think her children were a reflection of her in how she like, no, her children are bad. Everyone else looks at her and says, your children left.
Yeah, so everybody, everybody in the FLDS is kind of that way. If your child
yeah.
leaves, okay. If all your children leave, you're the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's dumb.
But I'm really grateful for how far, that she didn't just cut me off and stuff. She could have, but she really had nowhere to go, so.
Yeah, I think she's
sent
doing
away
better
for a
now.
while, so.
Once you had left, do you want to talk about anything after you had left, like darker times, struggles, or not really?
I don't know. I think everyone goes through pretty, different times. There's the struggle of what do I believe? Like when I left, it was like, oh, I'm going to leave, but I'm still going to believe the Book of Mormon. So I won't be so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that didn't last very long. I started watching Mormon Stories podcast.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the deep dive they do into the Book of Mormon history, history of Joseph Smith and stuff. And really started deconstructing, where things come from and what do I believe. So I listen to different podcasts and things and kind of, I think you go through stages. You're not going to ever do that. And then it's like, oh, wait, is it really that bad?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much that comes with leaving, because it's like your whole world, your whole identity. You never had an identity of your own away from religion, from the cult, what it told you to be. So a lot's going to come with that, trying to find yourself, trying to know, where to go, how to dream, how to decide what to be, how to know what you like. So, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Is there anything else we need to talk about, or are you pretty much ready to go home?
Yeah, maybe we can do it another time.
Yeah. Everybody, like and subscribe. Give a big thumbs up if you want Barb to come on again. If you enjoyed the conversation, maybe put any questions you have below, and we'll get back together.
Ask us some questions.
Yeah, we'll get back together and answer all your questions.
Yeah, so that would be good.
Yeah. You have a TikTok.
I do.
About Pixie.
Yeah, me and my dog.
Yeah, so she has a dog, which is, I like to consider it partially my dog, but it's her dog.
It's the family dog.
It lived with us up in Idaho for a while, but
yeah.
Anyway, she has a TikTok. I think your most viewed thing is like 2 million or something, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. So she has a TikTok with the dog, and people should follow it. What's it called?
It's called Life with Pixie.
Okay, and then do you want to? So it's Life with isn't it called Pixie Paw Prints?
So the handle is at Life with Pixie, but yeah,
Okay.
Pixie's paw print.
At Life with Pixie. All right. Anything you want to say before we go?
No, thanks everybody for being here and listening. Let us know if you have any questions. Maybe we can do a short, quick, 30-minute question and answer. That'd be fun. Thanks for being here and supporting Jaden.
Thanks, everybody. Like and subscribe. Give this video a big thumbs up. Like she said, put your questions in. We'll follow back up. We'll see you next time. Peace out.